Hi, hello everyone. I'm Justin. This is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today, I want to talk about Survivor Series, WWE's premium live event, airing this upcoming Saturday from Vancouver with a special start time at 6 p.m. instead of the usual 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to preview the match card. We're going to make our predictions to see what happens. So there are 5 matches on the card total. And I'm glad because up until this Raw, there was only 3. And I was getting a little worried, to be honest. But they threw 2 more matches in. Should be a pretty solid match card. They're definitely going to deliver from an in-ring perspective. I'm not too worried about that. But I will say that the stories building up to this event have been lackluster, to say the least. They've done an exceptionally poor job building to this event, which is a little sad. In fact, it felt like they had some really easy stuff in front of them, and they went out of their way to make it worse. So let's just jump into it, all right? We're going to start off with the women's War Game match. The women's War Game match is going to be Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Bayley, and Io Sky versus Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Candice LeRae. So 5-on-5 women's War Game match. And I gotta say, there's some good. There's a lot of bad here. Why? First of all, Jade Cargill. Let's address Jade Cargill. She was supposed to be in the match. She got injured. They wrote her off. Mystery attack backstage. This could be, and probably should be, the beginning of her feud with Bianca Belair when she returns. So that's a good thing. That'll be an amazing thing. That's a great way to start it off. I don't think anyone really expected Bianca to be the one to turn heel. And if she attacked Jade Cargill, then, she kind of turned heel. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun to see, that play out when that's done. But Jade Cargill now out injured, off the team. Bayley replaces her, right? Bayley and Io Sky are on the same team, even though they spent the first half of the year feuding, and it's just no big deal. And Io Sky and the rest of Damage Control are now good guys because they wanted her to have another title shot. I don't know. It's very convoluted, right? Very convoluted. And, it doesn't necessarily make sense that they're on the same team. But then again, on the heel side, it doesn't make sense that Nia Jax and Liv Morgan are together when they were just feuding for Crown Jewel. And Nia doesn't have any beef with Raquel Rodriguez, even though she interfered and tried to cost her. And Liv doesn't have any beef with Tiffy, even though she interfered and threatened to cash in on her. So, honestly, the build for this has been so sloppy. And it felt more like those kind of old school Vince McMahon era 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series tag matches than a War Games match. I don't think it's fitting for this stipulation. I really don't. But that being said, some incredibly talented women. Liv Morgan, Rhea Ripley, they're going to kind of continue their feud a bit. Rhea's also going to have a chance to get her hands on Raquel. So that's a good thing. And they will step up to the occasion. They will deliver. They will perform. But just the build for this match has not been great. So that being said, you have both of your champions on one team. It doesn't really feel like they can lose. And if you're going to turn Bianca heel, you might as well turn her heel now instead of waiting 3 months for Jade Cargill to come back. So I think that would be a great way to do it. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen. But they could justify the loss for the good guys that way. But I still think, you have both of your women's champions on one team. and Nia just took a huge loss to Liv Morgan at Crown Jewel. She's got to be, as a champion, she can't be taking these many big losses in a row. So I think that you got to have the heels win this. So that's where I'm going with. Final prediction, it's going to be Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, and Candice LeRae. So let's move on to the United States Championship match. That's going to be L.A. Knight, versus Shinsuke Nakamura, who is finally back. So excited to have Knock back. This is gonna be a pretty good match. This honestly might be match of the night. Both of these guys are incredible. And story-wise, there's not much to it. Knock returned. He attacked LA Knight. He got a title shot. Very simple. You could have the title change hands if you wanted. If you wanted to give Nakamura some momentum coming off of his return, he could very easily take the title and go on a run. But at the same time, he could very easily, lose. There hasn't been enough build. There hasn't been enough story. LA Knight could easily just keep it and keep doing what he's doing. He's doing a great job as champ. This could go either way. It almost doesn't even matter, right? Both options are fair enough, right? But I'm going to say final prediction, LA Knight. I just don't know if there's been enough story to justify a title change. But again, if they go with that, awesome. Let's see. I think the next match we're going to talk about was also just added this past Raw. It's the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship. That's going to be Bron Breakker defending his title against Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus. And whereas the last match I think is going to be really good, I think this one is going to be really hard hitting. It's going to be brutal. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great match. Now, Sheamus has never won the Intercontinental Championship. He's been very vocal over the years about wanting it. Ludwig Kaiser cost him in a title opportunity a few weeks back. Sheamus returned the favor, costing Ludwig Kaiser a title opportunity, or costing him the victory in his title opportunity. And then you got Bron Breakker, who lost it to Jey Uso for no reason, really. He didn't need to lose it in the first place, but he lost it and then he got it right back. And there was really no character shift for him. It kind of felt like maybe he'll be a good guy, and then no, right back into it. So all three of these guys, very hard hitting. It's going to be a pretty good match. I don't think you take it off of Bron Breakker yet, especially with the Jey Uso, incident. I think Bron Breakker keeps it to a bigger event. I still think end goals are Sheamus, but I think the story isn't there yet. It needs to be told a little bit more. And this feels sort of like Sheamus versus Ludwig Kaiser is the main story, and Bron Breakker just happens to be a side character. So final prediction, Bron Breakker retains. Next up is the World Heavyweight Championship match. Daring General Gunther versus that street rat Damien Priest. And again, this has felt different than a lot of Gunther's feuds thus far. He lost a lot of his aura with that loss to Cody Rhodes. He's been getting his ass whooped every Monday by Damien Priest. Damien Priest is coming to this with incredible momentum. And there's one thing that needs to happen, right? Gunther needs to have a dominant victory. Like, he needs to go out there and crush him. And I don't know that that's going to happen. They're not going to want Damien Priest to look weak or to look bad, especially putting this much effort into building him up. I think more likely is going to be, honestly, that like Finn Balor maybe costs him and that feud continues. Possibly. I mean, we could see a title change here, but I think that would really damage Gunther. I mean, he's looking a lot weaker than he was. He's lost a lot of his aura, but he isn't past the point of no return, right? He isn't past the point where they can salvage this. They absolutely can salvage this. And so you kind of have to ask yourselves, well, who's a bigger priority? Because this kind of feels like a situation where there maybe isn't a good way to come out of this. I feel like you kind of booked yourself into a corner here. Personally, I would have Gunther retain. That's going to be my final prediction. Gunther retains. Hopefully in a pretty dominant fashion. But again, this is another one I would not be surprised if there was a title change. This could kind of feels, and this is one of the first title defenses that Gunther's ever had, that it feels like it could go either way. So we'll see. We'll see on Saturday. The final prediction, Gunther. Finally, last match of the night, Civil War Games. This match basically wrote itself, and they dropped the ball so hard. This match was served to them on a silver platter, and they were like, no, I'd rather eat it off the floor. They did such a poor job of building the story. The Bloodline stories have consistently delivered, have consistently been the best thing about WWE programming for years now. And part of what made them so successful was the ability to tell it at its own pace, to let each beat of the story breathe. And they just completely rushed into Jey Uso forgiving Roman, Sami Zayn forgiving Roman, Paul Heyman's return, and CM Punk is now part of this because Solo recruited Bronson Reed. So instead of having 4-on-4, Bloodline versus Bloodline, New Bloodline versus OG Bloodline, Civil War Games, the match everyone wanted to see, the match that was served up to them in a silver platter, they were like, oh no, War Games has to have 5 people on each team. And they drug in Bronson Reed and they drug in CM Punk. And it felt like they only did so to, one, probably give CM Punk a little bit of a short-term mini feud with Bronson Reed, and then spark his bigger feud into WrestleMania season with Seth Rollins. But they could have done this another way. They could have had the same thing play out without being involved in the Bloodline storyline. They needed to start the recruitment of Jey Uso much sooner than they did. He didn't need to win the Intercontinental Championship. And they could have been trying to recruit him, and they could have taken his time to forgive Roman. Sami Zayn could have taken a little bit more time to forgive Roman, and then we would have had 4-on-4. Right? Bloodline versus Bloodline, Civil War Games. It's just, that's not what they did. And again, from an in-ring perspective, this match will be fine. It will deliver, but they missed so many beats of this story. It is so disappointing that they have dropped the ball this hard with such an important storyline. So going forward, who do we think is going to win? And what do we think the implications are going to be? Well, it's tough, right? It feels like the good guys should win, especially if the heels win in the women's match. But that kind of ends this feud, right? It kind of ends Bloodline versus Bloodline. Maybe you have one more match, Solo versus Roman, one-on-one for the title of Tribal Chief. After this, maybe if you give the OG Bloodline the win here, maybe you have a distraction or interference from The Rock. He came out at Bad Blood for no reason. He kind of showed his hand for no reason. If he came out tonight not having come out at Bad Blood, then he very easily could have left us wondering whose side he really was on. But he threatened Jimmy. He threatened Roman. He's clearly on the bad guy's side. He could come out, help Solo. So the bad guys could win this. The New Bloodline could win this with the help of The Rock. Or some other random Samoan wrestler. There's a few of them out there that could join the story. I think maybe we're past that point this far into it. Because if you're going to add members, you should have added them and established them prior to the War Games match, but I mean, it's always a possibility, right? But yeah, so there are some good options. Which way do you go? This is probably the hardest one to pick, but um, it just feels like there's enough um, missed opportunity here. Um, if you go with Roman and the OG bloodline finally winning, even though it is the much, much more satisfactory way to happen, that I'm just going to final prediction Solo Sikoa and the new bloodline. But I hope I'm wrong on that one. I really do. I'd love to see the OGs win this. And, if The Rock comes out, if The Rock interferes, it almost feels like you'd be setting up a match with Jay, a match with Sammy, a match with Jimmy before you get to Roman. I don't think The Rock's going to wrestle that much. I really don't. So I just think, this will have a lot to do with CM Punk. Seth Rollins maybe cost CM Punk. That's a possibility. He could be the one that cost them. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I do think that Solo Sikoa and the new bloodline is going to win this. So that is the match card for Survivor Series. What do you guys think? Are you excited? Do you feel like they could have done a better job building these stories up? It's only going to be a couple of weeks until Saturday night's main event. So it's going to be a really quick turnaround. So expect the ball to keep rolling. Anyway, guys, and thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.